Good morning, everyone. So, this topic, the mercy of nature, came to me a couple nights ago when I was having a deep phone conversation with a dear friend. And at a certain point, we were talking about the virus and not just the virus, but what's happening within humanity around the virus. And the words my friend used, I can't even remember what those words were that she used. But what was evoked within me was this direct realization that it's quite possible the virus is part of the merciful movement of nature. That may sound kind of crazy, right? To to see that something so destructive and inducing so much fear might actually be a movement of mercy on the behalf of nature. And I don't want at all to dismiss the pain and the suffering and the challenge that's happening at all. That when we talk about something being merciful, even though it's destructive, we're not doing so, or I'm not doing so, as a way of creating a dualistic, oh, this is all for the highest good, and dismissing that in the process, that it may be something that is causing great pain and suffering. And maybe our evolution isn't meant to happen through pain and suffering. But the reality is that there is pain and suffering because we have it and we talk about it and we have created a concept around it that points us to a relationship of how do I manage pain and suffering. So it is something that's in the consciousness, whether it's the ultimate divine consciousness. How do we know? Do we know? uh, all we know is the insight that we have presently and the acknowledgement that we're largely unconscious presently as well. So that's information that we have. And as I was reflecting on what's happening around this virus, I don't want to simply point to the fact that it's helping us correct or is giving us an opportunity to purify. That's not a direction I want to go. I think everything that happens in creation is intended that creation will come to the fullness of the glory of the divine. So everything. And I do hold that perspective. But in that, I want to pose a deeper layered question to us. And that is, if you needed to give your own answer to someone, would you say that nature, this time space continuum aspect of nature, not our essential eternal nature, but this nature, this creation that we're in, would you yourself say that nature has a benevolence at its core? And in that benevolence has then what is a response that is merciful. So mercy comes from benevolence, right? When we feel goodwill towards, benevolence is goodwill. When we feel goodwill towards anything, it evokes qualities, and one of them is a quality of mercy. Mercy as juxtaposed to the idea of judgment and retribution. And mercy never discounts the need for correction or the need for acknowledgement of where we fall short. Mercy's broader, where judgment may narrow in on just a problem or a scar or a direct need. Mercy's capable of holding it all. Mercy is capable of being that container wherein truth is acknowledged with love. Truth is acknowledged with love. And there have been many, many instances in this past decade that could have evoked the level of fear that's in humanity, that could have evoked it then. I mean, think about it, broaden your perspective out from the virus, and think about if people entered into global warming in a more intimate way, that could have evoked mass response and fear and action. Think about the various wars that have been pending. Think about any tragedy that has happened on a larger scale. But even if we focus on nature, the increase in hurricanes and earthquakes and the other ways that it's becoming chaotic as the seasons change. What if that affected us, our humanity, more intimately, like this virus did? Would we be like that little young, wise girl, Greta, and respond with all our hearts and souls to it, like we're responding with the virus? Would we draw together to see how we're going to save our planet so that we can also save our lives? Even if we're egocentric, we can still be focused on the broader destruction to save our personal lives. And that says to me that if there are many things in this past couple decades, or even this decade, that could have hit this deep survival wound that we have, if they didn't do it, this is. So this virus then is taking it down a deeper level from just the need for containment and the need for response and that. So that we're doing, right? And many of us are rising together in very dramatic ways to help humanity and follow the protocols for the sake of ourselves and others. But if we take it a little deeper and say, okay, well, now this virus is a visitor, that it's the first thing that's actually evoking a worldwide response, that we need to take a happening in nature seriously. Where does that take us then? If instead of isolating it out that the virus is the enemy, and up till now we haven't had any enemies that are of mass scale. So if we take it completely out of that dualistic, judgmental way, and we look more deeply, I'm like, wow, we've gotten lots of messengers all along the way, but this one's actually the first one that's actually hitting a chord, and a serious chord. So if we look at it from that, okay, well, then this visitor is much more than just a virus that's threatening our species. There's something more going on. And I don't want to get into what I think that more is. I could do that. But I want you to take it into that level. The reason that I want you to do that is because you're a source of divine mercy. You are a source of empowerment for yourself and rippling out to the world. You have that connection yourself, and bringing it down to this deeper, even more solemn, serious level lets you tap that resourcefulness so that you find in your experience that you are much more than the body, that you are informed by the divine. And the formed is this body, the informed. There's a passage in Luke chapter 12. It's warnings and encouragements. And Jesus starts out pretty severe, and he says the obvious things. Don't trust the yeast of the Pharisees. So he sees that the reigning body of humans is infecting the mass with a yeast that's a false rising into security. And I think that that's something that we can take seriously now in our practice, and not let the yeast of the reigning authorities, whether that authority be our leaders in certain ways, whether the authority be mass media, but that we not get intoxicated by that yeast. That's where our practice comes in. Because he says that underneath all of that is a dark motive, is an unrealized motive, an unconscious motive. And that dark will come to light. And the light is the playing out of the fear that's dominating the liberation and what I would call faith, though I know faith is a tricky word. So that dark is playing itself out even in the light today by the mass fear that we have. He goes even further to say that the inner rooms, what happens in the inner rooms for every human being, will not only be revealed, but will be shouted from the rooftops. So this virus is a chance to really penetrate much more deeply into the inner room so that we find the resourcefulness, so that whatever is within us is shouted from the rooftops is something that is liberating for ourselves and for others. After that, he goes into that very eloquent passage, if you're familiar with the writings of Jesus at all, the do not worry passage. Do not worry. Do you not see the sparrows or the ravens and how they are taken care of? Do you not see the lilies of the field and how much glory they give off and how much they need to seek for nothing because they are provided for? So that's where we can bring ourselves with this mercy in nature, that level of trust, that we are actually in the current of doing due diligence in the physical plane here, that we have the courage to let love take us to that degree of trust. And therein then lies the mercy of the virus, this visitor. So I know I went over in the reflection just a little bit, but there was just a lot. I didn't know how to unpack that in a much more succinct way. So let's drop into a bit of meditation for this theme. And I'm leaving you with the what does this mean as a way of yourself answering that question and not me answering it. So let's close our eyes. And if you will, whether you physically do this or whether you energetically do this, hold a symbol of the virus suspended between your cupped hands. So your hands are cupped. And the virus isn't sitting on your hands. There's no physical contact. But there is a suspension of the symbol, whether it's a blob of light and dark, whether it's an object, whatever comes to you. And I'm going to offer a few words that are a little more like a prayer, but then we'll move into silence, and any words that come to you, let them be in the silence. Virus, you have hit a chord in our humanity that has needed healing ever since we came to be in this planet. And at the same time, you and I, on one level, are one, for we come of the same nature. What is this severe mercy? Let us embody this severe mercy, that we may both be in great health cellularly, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and that health may be a light that infects our humanity, just like our humanity is infected with fear and with yeast that is a false rising. Virus, teach me and teach us how to take our life seriously. Let this wake up call awaken us in such a way that you do not dissolve back into the fiber of creation only to arise again with more destruction, but that actually the presence of this mercy of you, O virus, will transmute and never be the needed benevolence of nature. And here we are not alone. We gather this morning, or whether you listen to this and participate later in the day. Let us stand like we're standing in a circle. And this symbol or energetic presence of the virus is at the center. Let us hold a presence together that is of divine origin, allowing our circle to be one of translucent light. And if you are able, do not force. Let your presence be kind and tender and understanding. Without judgment. For in this passage I quoted, Jesus also references that how we judge is how we'll be judged. And we have a choice here and now. And we begin to end this short presencing together. But our ending of this presencing together does not have to end us walking together. If you're inclined, let's do that. Let's walk together today. And open to learn in a new way how we can embody this severe mercy. We will find that it is not so severe. When you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. Great to be with you all. Blessings. See you tomorrow.